this morning, and also thanks for sitting down for a few minutes.
Oh yeah, you're very welcome, man. It's awesome. I love having visitors coming in, especially people from different schools coming in and seeing kind of a different style of jiu-jitsu.
I'm so glad that I decided to come, and really, I think like most people watching, they're starting to find out. I know I found out about you through an ad of all things. Like, you just kind of started popping up on my Facebook constantly, and I kept seeing this thing, Hidden Jiujitsu. So I ended up kind of caving in, which we'll talk about in a second, and that ad did work on me.
Okay, good.
But in your own,
guys are doing their job.
They are doing their job. But in your own words, what is Hidden Jiu-Jitsu?
So Hidden Jiu-Jitsu is really just understanding the basics and the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu, kind of at a little bit deeper level. So there's so many subtleties and kind of little things that are very, very difficult to pick up with the eye, and what I call them like hidden details that really help to make jiu-jitsu so much more effective. And because it's hard to pick up with the eye, if you don't have a teacher that is really extremely well at pointing them out and articulating them, it sometimes can be hard to learn. And I feel that's those little details, those little hidden details is really what makes jiu-jitsu work like magic. It's what makes it work so that it's effortless,
Yeah.
It's what gives you the leverage and stuff like that. And so for me, it's mostly just kind of trying to pass on and share all of the jiu-jitsu that I learned over 20 years, 15 plus years training with Rickson, who's considered the best in the world, and trying to really pass on all those little details that made his jiu-jitsu different.
Well, I'll tell you, and I know your feeling about it, because when we first met, I said, I came to you from the ad. I saw the ad, like people there, they see it, and you had this pained face, kind of like, the marketing,
Yeah.
But the truth is, I'll tell you honestly, I read it, and I was like, okay, I know I'm being marketed to. It's an ad, and fair enough, but that doesn't mean a thing is not good. It just means, okay, guy's saying something trying to get my attention. So you got my attention. And I think it was the cross side. You were talking about being like heavy as a whale, right?
Right.
And so I'm reading it, and I'm a little guy, so I'm always rolling against really big guys. I wanted to develop my pressure heavier. I thought that I had, some good ideas, some good basics. I understood some fundamentals about how to be heavy. I sometimes gave them a hard time, the big guys. So when reading this, it got me curious. I'm like, okay, is this all marketing, or is there something in there I haven't seen? And then I honestly caved, because I figured, you know what? If there's one thing in there that I didn't know, and it starts to work for me, really that's worth the price of admission, because if I were to take a private with someone, it's going to cost me more.
Yeah.
Guys, I know even for myself, when people come to do training for kettlebells or whatever with me, they say, oh, it's expensive. I say there's a great saying, right? It says like, a good teacher's expensive, a bad one costs you even more, right? So I finally caved. I took a look, and exactly what you just said. I watched some of the videos, and I said, I know this. And then I went to the next one. I said, okay, I know this idea, I think, but now I think I know it better, because I heard you say it a different way than other people had said it to me. And then when I tried to apply the way you explained it, I'll tell you honestly, it was different. That's why I ended up here, and that's why I came to visit you, because it was stuff that I had heard it in some way or another. Some of it I hadn't heard before, honestly, but some of it I'd heard. But it never absorbed it that way, because all of a sudden you said something different about it, and I'm like, I had that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
And it clicked for me. And the same thing in the class. A lot of time in the class you were showing stuff, and I'm like, okay, I know this, and then you would make a little subtle change, and I'm like, I do not know that at all. And when I see somebody who's putting something out like that, I always wonder, like, what's the goal? What's the goal? So it seems, at least from the outside, like that, there's so much jiu-jitsu out there now. There's so much available to everyone. What's your goal with Hidden Jiu-Jitsu? Do you want to show people, this different kind of stuff that maybe hasn't been so readily accessible to everyone?
The goal with my jiu-jitsu is, because you're absolutely right, there is so much jiu-jitsu out there, and I think a lot of the jiu-jitsu out there is just so complicated, so complex, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that complicated and complex, and you can achieve an extremely high level in jiu-jitsu without having to learn 1,000 techniques. and each technique with 6, 7, 8 steps to be able to do something. What I always say is that in order for something to be effective, in order for it to work, especially in a situation or an environment where you need to protect yourself or save your life in a self-defense situation, it has to be simple.
Right.
The more steps it takes to get something done, the easier it is to counter, the easier it is to interrupt. And so really, my jiu-jitsu, Rickson Jiu-Jitsu, is extremely simple. It's very, very basic, but there's tiny little adjustments and details that make it really work. And so that's really what I want to show people, is how simple and effective jiu-jitsu can be. And a lot of times things don't work just because you're missing 1 or 2 little details, and all of a sudden, guys are able to defend, or guys are able to counter, or now it doesn't work. And once you understand those things, then it makes your jiu-jitsu so much more powerful. Right.
Let's look at a simple detail, right? Because people watching, I think an example is always the best, right?
Sure.
So, we worked on some cross-side. Everyone who starts jiu-jitsu, they get, paired up, they start rolling, they start getting guys that are a little bit better, or girls that are a little bit better. They end up getting, crushed in positions. I think that's why jiu-jitsu is so much fun, but it also has the highest attrition, because it's not pretend. So if you can't do it well, you're going to spend a lot of time getting crushed. You're going to spend a lot of time feeling like you're, being beaten up, you're being controlled, and it's frustrating because the techniques maybe you just practiced, you're not able to make them work, right? So what would maybe be a good example of something that we can look at cross-side that's, a nice adjustment, something that you like to share with people, that maybe you share in Hidden Jiujitsu online, and also what you're teaching here, that, it's not complicated, but people can access it.
Let's give this little detail about the arm in the face. We covered that.
That's awesome.
And I think sometimes people don't understand the arm. So if you're laying down on your back.
Yeah.
So one of the big things is a lot of times people end up cross-eyed and they have this arm here, and they try to use this arm to kind of frame the face or create some leverage on the face. The problem with this is when someone's holding tight and they're really trying to jam this wrist, it can be extremely uncomfortable on the wrist. So if you try to stretch me away, even you being really strong, the problem is when there's a lot of pressure here, especially at this range when you're jammed up, you don't have any power to really stretch this arm away, and so it becomes really difficult to move your arm. And for some people, it can be extremely uncomfortable. So if I start to put pressure here, you start to feel a little bit of pressure in your elbow. And so from this situation, if I turn my head and I start to really put pressure, not only can it be uncomfortable on your elbow, but now it exposes your arm to attack, right? So from here, now I can start to attack this Americana. So instead of putting the arm here, which it can expose it to being in danger, and also it can be extremely uncomfortable, and really it doesn't really have much of an effect, right? If someone's really holding tight, I always keep my arm here. And because most people, their intention is to use the shoulder. So people, you like to use the shoulder to control the face and kind of smash your face and make you uncomfortable. What I do now is what we were playing with today, is just stretching this arm, and this turn of the elbow is really what creates a lot of leverage, so I can't even put pressure on your face.
Right. Now I got so much more room.
Yeah, and so if you relax that arm, you see how I need to kind of lean a little bit and turn my body to be able to drive this pressure on your face. And so just being able to relieve that pressure to turn, now it opens up just that tiny little detail of how to engage the arm, how to use the arm, which a lot of times is in a bad place, or even if it's not in the bad place, most of the time people just have it resting.
Right.
And so it's dead. It's just there. It's not really helping you escape. It's not really doing anything to relieve the pressure. So just that little detail on how to relieve the pressure on your face by stretching the arm and turning the elbow. Now it makes it so that you can turn on your side. So now you're a lot more comfortable, and I start to become uncomfortable on top. And then it makes it easy for you to turn to do your guard recovery, which is one of the main escapes, right? Anytime we're on the bottom, if we're forced to be on the bottom, we want to try to at least get them in the guard so that we can have a little bit more of a dominant position, right? We have some options to sweep or submit.
Awesome. And, I started jiu-jitsu a long time ago, and then I stopped. I think like most people, I came to jiu-jitsu because I saw, the UFC, and I thought, what the hell is this? I had done karate, I was a third dan in karate, I had done other martial arts, and when I saw jiu-jitsu, I was like, wow, look how that works in a fight, and look how they train it. They train it in such a way where you don't have to wonder. A lot of other martial arts I had done, you had to wonder. You're like, wow, I don't know if I could do that against somebody who's really resisting. But in jiu-jitsu, they were always practicing resisting, and so you knew, you had that confidence. And then I stopped for a while, and I came back to jiu-jitsu, and I saw things have changed, and in a lot of ways they've changed for the better. You know, the people aren't killing each other in schools like they used to. The training seems a lot smarter. Higher belts helping lower belts. They're not just defending the belts. You know, if purple goes with a blue, the purple belt will go, come on, man. You know, I'm working my cross-side defense. Don't worry, I'm not going to rip your arms off and beat you to death with them.
Right.
You know? So some things are a lot better, and even the fact that it's grown as a sport. I think people saw it as a fight. They saw how it would do in a competition. They wanted to compete with it, maybe not with punches, and it grew really rapidly as a sport. But I have noticed that, from my limited experience anyways, that a lot of people now, because they love so much to compete with it, they seem to be forgetting the fact that this used to be, or should be, really effective in a fight.
Yes.
And training it for the sport is not exactly the same thing as training it for a fight. And when I've seen some of your
completely different.
Yeah, when I've seen some of your videos, I would see like the positioning for when you're using, let's say, the knee shoe. How you can forget, someone can easily forget, when I'm just used to playing grips and I'm used to playing, to my guard game. If we're not punching, it's not the same thing as if you're allowed to punch. So, I don't know, maybe you want to show a little bit of that, just so if somebody's maybe coming into jiu-jitsu and they've never been exposed to what it's like to play maybe with strikes, they can sort of start to see and wonder, like, oh, the way I'm training it, is it really the way I should be training it for self-defense? Because I think that's kind of getting lost. I don't know if that's your perspective as well.
And that's really important, because all martial arts evolve. All the techniques from any martial art evolve from a certain concept and philosophy. And jiu-jitsu, the concept and philosophy is it has to be effective for street fighting or for a self-defense situation, and it has to be effective for a smaller person against a bigger, stronger individual. And so when I teach, everything that I teach, I really try to adhere to those concepts. Like, will this work in a fight? Will this work in an environment where someone is trying to punch me or elbow me or headbutt me? Because at the end of the day, how we train is how we're going to react on the street.
Sure.
Right? It's like doing something over and over again. It becomes ingrained, so it becomes into your subconscious. And that's the whole purpose of mat time and training, is that doing something so many times that when you need it, it's there. You just react. You don't have to think. And you guys know that in training, like the first time you learn a move, you actually have to think, and it has to become conscious. And after a while, you start to roll, and you don't even think about what you're doing. You're just moving based on your training.
Yeah.
And so that idea is really important for me, first and foremost, that jiu-jitsu is a martial art and it's effective, because I feel as an instructor, it's my responsibility to my students that if they one day need to learn or need to use the jiu-jitsu to protect themselves or protect someone they care about, that it works, that
Right.
it's effective, And so the whole idea of that.
Yeah, so like let's see an example like of maybe what I might be playing around with. So I'm kind of, let's say I'm used to playing, and I've got my knee up here, and let's say I'm used to kind of trying to play.
And this
play
is
close.
normal,
right?
When you're just training.
So yeah, this is right, like you said, this is normal, right? This is kind of playing like this.
Exactly, especially in the context of jiu-jitsu.
Right.
You don't have to worry about getting punched, and you want to have these grips maybe on me and control me to be able to sweep me or move me or whatever. But the problem with this situation is if you get used to always being comfortable here,
right,
when it comes time to a fight, you're gonna get hit,
right,
or you're gonna get hit, or you're gonna get hit or elbowed,
sure,
right? And so that's the thing, is for me in training, I'm always trying to focus on, okay, how do I position myself that if this were a fight too, that I'm safe,
right?
And so just by stretching yourself away,
right,
now you put yourself at the distance where I can hit you. See if you can touch my face.
Yeah.
So I'm 6'1" and you're
I'm not
5 foot 2.5.
Something on a good day, right?
Yeah. So what's amazing is now you can be just as effective with your guard, right? He can hit me. I'm still a few inches away, and even if I try to lean forward, just from
and I can control when I bring it in and maybe hit.
You can control distance. Yeah. You also have strikes available with this leg, so now you can kick me here. You have these kicks here. You can pull your heel back and do some heel strikes here, which do a lot of damage. Right. And so this is kind of how I'm always trying to teach my students is, let's train in a way that if not only does it work in the context of training for jiu-jitsu, but it also works in the context that if you need it on the street, it also works.
Right.
You know, so for me, everything has to always go back to that, the self-defense aspect of the martial art.
What you're doing with Hidden Jiujitsu, and you know, you're exposing what you're doing in the club to a lot more people, and also what you're doing is you're offering a chance for people that maybe are really come to it from the sport now. They're not coming to it from the self-defense aspect. They're not even thinking about that. And a chance to see that you can train both. You can train it and you could have fun, go to a tournament and use it, but at the same time, like you just said, you're gonna end up, if you ever have to use it, you fight the way that you train. So, you know, it is possible to do it in a way where you can kind of have both. You can enjoy it as a sport and also know that what you're practicing is also could help you if you really need it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, you know, I'm a big believer in that because I saw Rickson and how simple his jiu-jitsu was and how he was able to use a very, very simple basic jiu-jitsu against all of the world champions that would come in and train over the years, and how he was just able to crush everyone that ever walked into the gym with very, very simple basic jiu-jitsu. And so that's why I'm a big believer, because I witnessed it for myself. I saw how effective it can be when it's trained properly, and how that style can also be effective for competition, and it can be effective for also for fighting.
Well, there's a great quote, right? Simplicity is genius.
Yes.
So if people want to get exposed to some of the genius of simplicity and they want to maybe take their jiu-jitsu to a different level, they can visit, it's hiddenjujitsu.com.
Yes, hiddenjujitsu.com.
And you've got things divided up so they can either get kind of exposed to a whole bunch at the same time, or they can get exposed to, you know, maybe they're having trouble with cross-side. Maybe their mount is, you know, they're having trouble getting on the mount and keeping the mount. So you kind of compartmentalized it to help people with the certain areas of their game that maybe are weak.
Right, and so it's broken up into modules, and the way that we decided to do the platform is it's basically like a lifetime membership. So instead of a reoccurring monthly bill, once you buy it, you own it. And the nice thing that the online content allows me to do is it allows me to update the information. So I've already released some updates in the past. Like, people had some questions for me. They put some questions in some of the comments below, and I was able to answer the questions by filming additional videos and adding it. So once you pay that amount, you know, all the free additional content that comes after is free. And so I'm a big believer in just really helping the community and trying to share this jiu-jitsu and pass this on so that it's not lost, you know?
Well, and also I'll tell you two other things that I really like about what you did in the back end, because I have it, is one is you made something where you can just click off that you've seen a video, because there are a lot of videos in every section. So it just kind of helps to keep my place as I'm going through. I'm like, okay, I've been exposed to this. I might want to go back, and I can go back anytime I want. Unlike a private where, you know, we end the session and that's it. I can keep going back and watching the video, but it says, okay, I've seen this one. And then another thing, like in some of them where you have like some seminar footage, you show the technique, but then what I thought was really good is the Q&A after. So a lot of the times, like, we'll learn a technique in a school, and then we start practicing it. When you're practicing it, questions come up, because all of a sudden my partner's doing this, or my partner's doing that. So then we got to see live what happened after you showed the technique, and then, you know, it was the guillotine defense, right? And it's like you're just whipping the arm up over the top. And then one of the guys was like, yeah, but this is happening now, Henry. And then you came by and you were like, okay, because of this, now you do this, right? And this is, and that just, it helped a lot to then kind of give you the sense that, okay, yeah, so I'm going to work the technique, and, you know, this is a live organic thing, and here are some other possibilities. So it really rounds it out really, really well. And I think that for people that are thinking about, you know, getting that, like anything that supplements their training, I know everyone's big worry is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be good? Can I actually learn from it? And, you know, it's something that for me, it's helped to understand some of the concepts a little bit better that I'd been exposed to before, to learn some new concepts. And you know, people like always worried about pulling the trigger on something because it costs money. But good stuff costs money, and at the same time, you know, people will spend more drinking on a Saturday than they will on their training, but they'll tell you while they're drinking how much they love their training. So if someone's really interested in it, I think you've got a great thing going on there. And every time I'm in California now, I'm coming here to train.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Pleasure, man.
Yeah, I try to make it really affordable, you know. I mean, the price of one of the courses. Sometimes you pay more just to even drop in for a class
Yeah.
at some schools. I heard some of the schools now they're charging like $70 or $80.
I won't say who on camera, but $100 to do a drop in.
Do one drop in.
Yeah, so I took that to mean we don't want you to drop in.
And that's the thing is, like, you know, with the courses, like you said, you can constantly review it and go back and watch it. And, you know, in each course there is quite a few techniques, and I'm going to be constantly adding more information.
Awesome,
so
man.
that's the goal for me, is to basically be able to put down all of the information that I've learned over 20 years, which, you know, it doesn't get done overnight. So,
Yep.
so for me, it's kind of going to be a continuing, ongoing process of me just keep adding information and adding information to the courses.
Perfect, man. We're going to put a link underneath this video so everyone can find Hidden Jiu-Jitsu and they can check it out. All right? Thanks
you.
a lot, and thank you.
Thanks, Shawn.
Awesome, man. Thanks.